What's going on? First and foremost, I give all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High God, Yahweh. I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world calls Christ, Yahweh Shai. It's your brother, Chief Priest Al-Azhar Ben Lawyer, a.k.a. the Guerrilla Hebrew of the Sicarii. And got a little debate. What's going on, brother? Black Ice TV holding it down out there across the pond. Big piece of the brother Black Ice TV. Yeah, so we got this debate. Deacon Akai set up this debate with a brother who adheres to the ideology of Egyptology and things of that nature, a Nile Valley African, so to speak, in thought, is the brother. And you know, we don't like beating dead horses too much. Shalom, everybody coming in. We don't like beating up dead horses too much. But this brother, excuse me, Salakia. This brother Shalom, Justin, Izan, Tazapanya, Ikaran, Shalom, Nawab, brother Kendrick, man, Shalom, King. But we don't like beating up dead horses too much. You know, this whole Israel versus Egypt thing is something that, you know, of course, was done a couple years ago. But this Shalom, brother Yaiqua, what's going on, soldier? Hassan, Shalom, share it, saints. So, yeah, so this particular brother has kind of an interesting perspective that we kind of want to talk about and just really ask some questions on and kind of just go back and forth on it briefly. So when a brother sends the request, we're going to get this thing cracking through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Shalom, brother Ash. What's going on? What's up, the Hawk? Everybody, shalom, man. Glad to have you brothers here and sisters. Shalom, of course, also to the princesses of the nation of Israel, the daughters of Zion, man. But yeah, so I'm going to wait for the brother to send a request, and then we're going to get this thing cracking in the spirit, because I believe he's got an interesting perspective on things. You know, oh, this is Hawk's man who's debating. Okay, all right, for sure. Shalom, soldier Azariella. Chris Wilson, calling Chris Wilson. You're the man of the hour. What's good with my brother Tori? Shalom, brother. Shalom, my Patak. Shalom, Sean Foster. Share it, saints. Share it. Brother getting ready to get in here. Brothers, hurry up and share it. And hopefully by the time the brother... it's right now. Black Ice is right now. I'm just waiting on the brother to send a request so we can get him in here. You know, but share it so by the time the brother get in here and we get this debate starting, everybody will have the opportunity to see, you know, get a glimpse of it through the spirit. But all praise Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Shalom to brother Maccabee. Shalom to that brother. Shalom, sister Carla. Okay, the Hawk is out there in New Mexico. He need to get with Officer Ayathan Ben Lawyer, who's out there. Get with that officer. Just moved back to New Mexico not too long ago. Shalom, sis. That's right. Shalom, soldier Ramamah Ben Lawyer. Oh, we got the brother here. Nope, that's somebody else. We waiting on a particular brother. Please. How am I liking Dallas? Is alright, except it's so damn hot. I want to see the weather. I want to show y'all the weather. 95. You know. Glad I got this AC kicking in this crib, man. I went outside a little bit ago. Had to go to the laundry, man. Most High in Christ. That was an experience. Shalom, the brother Strong Tower. Yaquab, I wasn't ready for the Texas weather, man. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't ready for it. But it's all right. Camp's supposed to be about 106 tomorrow. Yahweh will be with us. Nakawam, I know you feeling it out. Shout out to the soldier Nakawam, just flew in from Philly for the Feast of First Fruits this Monday. All praise Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, Carla. Yeah, definitely. Pray for Carla. $106 tomorrow for camp, Lord willing. The word gonna go out. Word gonna go out, you know. As are y'all, I'm getting to Georgia, man. I'm coming right to Georgia, man. Don't worry about it. Man, where's the man of the hour, Chris Wilson? Where you at, brother? Let's get this thing cracking, brother. Kendrick, man, is hell, man. This is crazy. I don't know how y'all been doing it all these years. It is crazy. I got to get out here and get some more sun. There's a brother, Chris Wilson, a man of the hour. Yeah, I don't know what's up with this live. Like, YouTube is insisting upon using phones. Insisting upon it. And there's just some, I mean, phones are good devices, but, you know, sometimes the tablet, I guess tablet front cams are not typically all that good. Chris Wilson was good, brother. Send a request, and we're going to get this thing started. Share it, saints. Share it, saints. We just going to be dealing with various topics within Egyptology juxtaposed to Hebrew Israelite ideology. So that's how we're going to kind of be doing it. So let me know when you send a request to brother Chris Wilson, and I see you, but you got to send a request. Matter of fact, can I just hold on? Can I just let me see? I think I could just hold on. Look, now y'all looking at my daughter's room. Hold on. Salakia. Hold on. There we go. Here's the brother. Yes.
Oh man, I wasn't ready yet.
You wasn't ready?
No, not yet, not yet.
How much time you need, my brother?
Can you see me?
I see the ceiling. I see the ceiling and the light. I can see that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, give me like 2 minutes, like even 1 minute. Can I pause this or?
I think you should be able to.
Okay, let me hold on 1 second.
Let me know.
Okay, I'm gonna leave the broadcast for like 2 seconds and I'm coming right back.
All right. So yeah, just come back saying all right, brother. Shalom, soldier Pagayala, soldier Rakab. Dude, you stupid. He's just offering his services, you know. Shalom, soldier Ayashawad out there in Sacramento. Oh, you talking about my walls? Yeah, let me tell you something. This little girl, man, you know, I wake up and there's just a Picasso piece on my wall. You know what I mean? And crayon. You know. She ain't got no chill. She ain't got no chill, man. You got to keep an eye on that little girl, man. That's right. Tazapanya, that's right. Hurricane. All praises to the brother, first off to the Most High, the brother Maccabee. All praises to the Most High on that. See, brothers, sometimes brothers be trying to force force things on brothers when you got to let every man just get in their own time. Sometimes a brother study hit the books and take some time, but you know it'll it'll hit them, you know, in the spirit. Yeah, Chris, we right here. So send a request again, and we're gonna get you right back in there. Zerubbabel was good, brother. Ayash, I'm gonna try that. I gotta try something. Share it though, Saints, because we about to get started. The brother's back, I think. Think he's about ready to go. Okay, he's ready. Let me try to get him back. Okay. Yeah, no, it's not saying I can add him. I can't just add him. There you go. There you go. Boom.
Yo, I'm here.
What's good?
Shalom,
What's good? What's
shalom.
good? Shalom, what's good, my brother?
Yeah, what's good?
Man, not too much, man. So, Brother Deacon was telling me that y'all had an interesting conversation yesterday, and he was calling me like, man, you should get this brother on live and kind of discuss things, because he's got a little bit of a different perspective than maybe and insight maybe than other brothers that we've dealt with on this subject matter. So he convinced me. So hey, we here.
Okay.
So if you could introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background and whatnot, my brother.
Man, been studying all type of doctrine for about I started maybe studying stuff when I was about 19 years old. Started stopped eating pork when I was like 19. Dabbled in Islam. Dabbled in Judaism, Hebrew, same thing. Read the Torah. And I under my studies, man, I found that all these monotheistic religions all led back to ancient Egypt. And I don't want to use all these names because people use different names. They use Kemet, they use all, but we're gonna just say Egypt for the sake of, so everybody will know what we're saying. It's kind of like when we say Jesus, we know his name is Yeshua, but we gonna use what people know.
Yeah, definitely. That's fine. That's fine. Definitely. All right. So let's I guess we can start maybe with which were your core beliefs. So I know you Deacon was telling me you don't necessarily subscribe to any one book as having a monopoly for guiding you, right? But we just dealing with the various philosophies and the culture of ancient Egypt, right? Okay. So I guess if you could kind of give us some of your fundamental tenets that you subscribe to.
Well, it's all that stuff is pretty much all the same, man. I mean, from what I've been studying, I like I said, it's all the Torah, Islam, and Judaism is the exact same religion. Ain't no doubt about it. Ain't nobody can tell me otherwise. It's the exact same thing. It's nothing special. Nothing. I mean, it's the same thing as Islam. Hand in hand. The only thing different is the language. One's Aramic, one's Arabic. I mean, what's Aramic and
Aramaic.
Yeah, Aramaic. I mean, it's the exact same language. Nothing's different. I just think that I think what I want to put out there is that I'm gonna prove that these people that were talking in these scriptures were men. They were guys. They weren't no apparitions, no spirits. These were physical flesh and blood men that were being worshipped as gods or supreme beings.
Okay. So as Deacon was telling me that you subscribe to the ideology that the black woman is God.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
but
depending on
go ahead.
what text you're saying that in. I'm not saying
Okay.
she created. When I say God, I mean supreme being. When I say God, I'm not speaking on the creator of the boundless universe. I'm speaking of a supreme being.
Okay. Okay, so I think what else did he say? So is the white woman also God?
Yes, for her
Okay,
people, yes.
for her people. Okay, so each individual people group, the woman of that people group is a supreme being of that people group.
Yes, we can all, I think we all can raise to be supreme beings. Um, and we do it when we go to school. You know, that's a practice that they stole from Egypt too, with degrees. When you go to school and you get a doctorate degree, and if I go and get a doctorate degree, we're both on the same level as far as intellect, depending on that subject. You're not smarter than me, depending on that subject, because we both passed the ranks of what was required to become to get the doctorate degree. The same as with a master's, a bachelor's, or an associate's. You have a certain
Mhm.
curriculum that you must pass to be on that level for them to say, okay, well, he deserves to get this degree. So that's what I mean when I say a supreme being. Whoever passed whatever ranks was set up to say that this person was a supreme being, then that's what a supreme being is. It's not a
Okay, so if we take a look at like the educational system that we are dealing with here today in America, right?
uh-huh.
Like you just explained, you have associates, graduates, bachelors,
Mm-hmm.
masters, doctorate degrees, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So those things, if somebody was to ascend through those ranks and obtain those degrees, then they would be ascending to the supreme being level.
Not necessarily. That's kind of not what I
Okay.
mean. So how can I explain it? Those are different. Those are degrees. So it's the same
Mhm.
thing as with a
It's the
person
same in principle.
is
Basically, there's degrees
exactly.
that an individual could achieve. Okay,
I can
okay,
go
okay.
around and say I'm a doctor all day, or I can have a badge and say I'm a police. But if I didn't, you know, I can say that. It's not gonna hurt to say
Hmm.
that, but I don't hold the information or the knowledge to be that. I wasn't ordained to be a police. The same thing as these people saying that they throughout the Bible that they're saying there were gods. These were people, these were men. They were mortal men that ate, drank, used the bathroom, walked around, that sweated, they got tired. Uh,
So would the same go for the deities of Egypt?
what you mean? Yeah, they were men.
The,
That's what this whole principle. That's what I'm here tonight to prove that. That's where this whole principle comes from. It comes from misunderstanding of ancient Egypt. They misunderstood what the Egyptians meant when they said certain things. And I'm not here to say I'm an expert on Egyptian studies. Is Most of it is incorrect.
being portrayed by whom? By the European, educational system and their propaganda machine, or by the Black conscious community?
Man, that's a tough that's a good question. Well, you can say the European, but the thing is with the European is really the only one and this not disrespecting anybody, but he's the only guy these are the only people that's going to research this stuff and find out. Um, we can go look at the writing on the wall all day, but we have to go over there and we have to learn hieroglyphics. We have to learn. It takes time to learn what this ego head means. You have to immerse yourself in those studies to find out. You can't just read one book and say, "Oh, this is what it means." You
Are you
gotta.
familiar with the teachings of Brother Jabari? He's frequent on
I heard of him.
TV House of Kings.
I heard of Brother
Well,
Jabbar.
because he's been immersed in the teachings of Egyptology he says for 25 years, right?
Okay.
So he made an example. There was a picture that a brother used, um, and it was of, basically it appeared to be, of course, some phallic play, some possible homoerotic or autofellatio, some questionable stuff. So what he said is, if you weren't immersed in this for 25 years, you would never understand this. So do you hold to like a similar position?
No, I
Okay.
know that most of that stuff is with Egypt. The confusing part about ancient Egypt is so many dynasties, man. You have to get pre-dynastic to get the full understanding. You have to get the meaning when Horus. Isis, Osiris. That's when it was. If they did
When
it,
they were actual, when they was actually on the scene. Pre-dynastic Egypt is when there was a Horus walking around and Osiris and an Isis walking
exactly
around.
before they set up dynastic periods, which came after, which is all the the mixed races, the invaders, the Turks, all these other people that came and ruled one small part of Egypt too. Let's keep that in perspective.
So when we're dealing with the pharaohs of the various dynasties, we know that the pharaohs often said that they was maybe Horus. Am I correct when I say they said that there was Horus in the person of Horus sitting on the throne? They were essentially taking Horus's place on that throne as pharaoh or as Nasut.
You mean as far as, well, what happens in Egypt? What happens in Egypt is when you study under someone, you graph that person's name. That's another thing that a lot of Egyptologists I don't hear them talking about it. So when you go under certain schools, you graph that person's name like Akhenaten. It means something. Each person, like Moses, Thutmose, a student of Moses, or at the end of their name when it's Ra or Moses, it means they went through those schools, like a doctorate degree.
Yeah,
like if I put doctor in front of my name. So the same thing. So what happens is throughout time, all the stuff it's like anything, man. It gets diluted, it gets tampered, it gets it gets changed. That's just honest. It gets changed around.
Okay, well, I'm with you there, and the reason why I asked you the question, why I asked it, is because like nowadays you got the Pope, right? The Pope say he the vicar of Christ. Anybody who sits on that throne of the Pope would be basically the equivalent to the people who are adherents to that religion as Christ on earth, right? So that's what I'm asking in the same context when you had the pharaohs that came up under these various for lack of a better term, cults, or studying under whatever certain discipline under each individual, they essentially became the successor of that person, and they sat on the throne as that person, right?
Yeah, they believe in reincarnation. They believe if they do the right thing, that person's spirit will come and incarnate in them. And that's an Egyptian practice. The same. I mean, everything the Pope does, he stole from Egypt. The thing on the head.
Yeah, of course.
So that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. You got to ask yourself, why does all of these monotheistic religions want to tie themselves back to Egypt? And that's the thing. When I was talking to the guy last night, you will have to go back to what's older. My thing is with Hebrew Israelites, which we all are Hebrew Israelites. Let me say that too. We all are a part of that, but that's just one part of our lineage. That's definitely not the beginning. You would have to go to what's older. That's how I started. I looked at all these other religions and I said, but dang man, the oldest one that can be documented will be Egypt. It's down to 70, it's down to 100,000 years old. So once you look and you see other religions, you see images and the same things in it, they had to get it from somewhere. And when you say, why would they be stealing this? I mean, it's no doubt about it that the Hebrews stole everything they got from ancient Egypt. It ain't no doubt about that at all. Their doctrine, everything they do comes from ancient Egypt, because they supposedly were in bondage in Egypt.
How, can you give me some examples of what the Hebrews stole from ancient Egypt?
Well, let me recant that. I'm not going to say stole. I'm going to say when they were there, they picked up practices. And instead of them coming back saying, hey, we learned this here, we learned this from this person, they didn't. They went and ran off and made they made up this old religion when they didn't have a practice until Moses went and rescued them. So whatever they did.
What was the practice that the Hebrews got from Egypt?
Everything. From the head covering, from the prostration, from the tassels, from the diet.
So we can see in Egyptian dress tassels being mandated for all the populace to wear.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You can see the locks of youth. You can see a lock of youth. That's a pure Egyptian. When the kids.
What you mean, like what the lock of youth? What is this lock of youth? You mean like what rabbinical Jews practice in this day and time?
You can say that, but
that's not what Hebrew, that's not a Hebrew Israelite custom.
Okay, Well,
So that's why I wouldn't say that
why
there
don't
as
you
far as,
why don't y'all wear the locks of youth?
because it's not in Torah to do that. That's a rabbinical interpretation.
So that's what the
So
rest does.
well,
Like,
yeah, well, rabbinical Judaism is something that was started with Kagan Bull in 7th century with the conversion of the Khazarian Empire. So that what they're doing is totally separate from the ancient practices of the Hebrew Israelite.
of course,
You know, exactly. So that's why I definitely wouldn't say do that. But I mean, as far as like culturally, when you just take a look at what's called Afro-Asiatic or Semitic practices, we see definite cultural clashing and not a cultural synthesis with ancient Egypt. So that's why I'm asking you to elaborate further on what exactly was taken, because like for example,
yeah,
if you
like
say
Yoda,
go ahead.
Taza Ben Yahuda, what's up? He got on his circumcision. They clearly stole circumcision from ancient Egypt because King Tut sat on the throne when he was 13 years old, so he had to have his bar mitzvah. That's when they consider you a man. That's why King Tut was able to sit on the throne at such a young age. That's clearly the Hebrew Israel. Well, not Hebrew Israelite, but clearly.
But sir, what does circumcision
You
and
know,
a bar mitzvah have to do with Tut sitting on the throne at 13?
because you're not. How can you sit on the throne if you're not a man? You gotta be. You're considered to be a
That
Pharaoh.
but that's rhetoric, because Israel had a 7-year-old that sat on the throne.
That shouldn't have been. You know,
That shouldn't have been. But I can make the same argument for a 13-year-old sitting on the
but
throne.
a 7-year-old, he can. I mean, a 13-year-old in our practices is we need to, kids. I mean, women were having kids back at 13 years old, correct? Back in
Women
those.
were having kids at 13 years old in that day. Do you have any scientific proof of that?
I mean, it's a whole day. I mean, do I know for 100%? No, I can only go by what researchers say, like all of us can only do. And yeah, they were having children at young ages, yes.
Young ages, but we talking about 13, because up to 100 years ago, women weren't even getting a period until they were 17, 18. This whole being able to reproduce that early on in your adolescence is a new thing in the earth, and that has absolutely everything to do with the type of food and things like that people are being fed.
That's simply not true. Muhammad had wives that were young as crap. Abraham had super young wives.
Muhammad having a young wife does not mean that young wife had entered her menstruation, and does not denote that she had ability to bear children. Because the young wife that he had, that he's infamous for having, when did she start having children for him? At what point in time? Do you know?
I don't know.
So just because he had a wife don't mean that she could have kids.
But how do we know?
Because over there in Arabia, them guys is having sex with little girls who do not have the ability to reproduce yet. So that's what I'm saying. These are things that observably in modern time, in modern science, we can see how the type of food and things like that and hormones that are being pumped into the population is having that effect on this early reproduction, versus in times of women were having a period at a much later time, thus not being able to reproduce until later on in life.
So you're 100% with when a woman has a menstruation cycle, she's able to procreate, correct?
I mean, scientifically, after she starts a menstruation cycle, she is able to procreate. I'm not saying that makes her fit for marriage, but she is able to procreate at that point.
Okay, so according to us, because we can't, that, and see, that's my thing, and that's my thing with a lot of this stuff. It's the doctrine. It's like you can't take some of it and not all of it. It's like if you're going to be steadfast with it, you have to. If you're going to promote it, you kind of gotta be like, well, now we see a 13-year-old. Not saying I do this. We see this as being bad, but they didn't. Mary was young.
What was she 13 years old?
She was around. Yeah, they said she was like 12 years old.
No, she certainly was not. You can't just jump out of the window and say that. She was young. She was young, but she was of a marriageable age. Meaning that she had. There is no one marriageable age. There's not a standard. Development is something. development is something that varies per individual, right or wrong,
So
right?
what's the marital age then for back then?
According to Hebraic customs, again, there is no standard age. It's when a
But it
woman
is.
blooms.
But
It's when
at
she
13.
blossoms.
So when do
She's
a
not
woman?
blossomed at 13.
So
A
when?
woman blossoming is denoting of the fullness of her maturation through her pubescent period, which
Okay,
deals with the widening of hips, right?
that means
The breast buds, as
the
well as
widening.
the backside and things of that, widening and being able and fit to bear a child. So that doesn't typically happen to girls at 13, even today. Even though
Okay.
she may have had her period, though being able to be impregnated, that doesn't make her bloomed and being totally fit to carry a child, right? But
Okay.
again, just 100 years ago, we could observe women having their periods much later in their teens. So I can assume that 2,000 years ago, if 100 years ago it was like that, I could assume that 2,000 years ago, girls weren't having their periods until later on in their teens.
Okay.
So I
So let me
definitely
ask
wouldn't
you this.
conclude that Mary was 12 or 13 years old.
So what would be the purpose to have a bat mitzvah at 13 years old? It would be no
That is
purpose.
brother. That is a rabbinical custom. This is not a
But
custom that I could go into the Bible and show being practiced by Hebrew Israelites. I can't.
so do
I
you
can't
have
demonstrate
children?
that biblically.
Do you
You
have
said
children?
what?
Do
Yes,
you
I have
have
two
children?
children.
Do you
Yes,
have
sir.
them that you did? Do you have a boy?
Yeah, I have a boy.
So is he circumcised?
Yes, sir.
Why did you circumcise him?
Because it's a law and commandment that was given to us from our forefathers to circumcise our children, our
Of course.
sons.
But in the beginning, Abraham, he was told to start circumcising. He wasn't.
Okay. Hold on. Wait a minute. What does that have to do with having sex with 13-year-olds?
Wait, first of all, I never said I had sex with 13-year-olds. I
Well,
never
but
said that.
no,
But
I'm
but
not
what
saying that you ever said that you have sex with 13-year-olds. I definitely don't take you as a brother who would do something like that. But what you're saying is that this is a culture that is acceptable of it. You adhere to a culture that it says this is acceptable to have sex with a 13-year-old.
Okay. But what I'm saying is this. Your culture says, I'm guessing it says no, but their culture was saying we do this at these times. We give these women their bat mitzvahs, and when we start doing these things at certain times, it's the
Yes,
same thing with the animal people.
rabbinical Jews who subscribe to something called the Talmud, and according to the Talmud, you can also have sex with a child.
So
You
that's
understand
like
what I'm saying?
that's like a
So
hadith.
that's a Talmudic teaching, just like the
That's
Hadith
the same.
teachings.
That's the
So
same.
we don't
It's the same
subscribe to
thing.
any of those things.
Okay, but that's the Talmud is verbal, like that's like a saying, like a hadith. Correct?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So where did they get this information from that they could do that in the Talmud?
I mean,
Who did it?
I don't know, and they very well could have got it from ancient Egypt, and that's fine because Talmudism is not a practice that I adhere to or subscribe to, and it is actually in direct objection of the Torah. So
But
of
it's
course
from
not.
the Torah.
I don't subscribe to that.
It's
No,
from
it's
the
not from the Torah. It's not at
but
all from the Torah.
but
It
I mean
speaks the opposite of the Torah, so it's not from the Torah.
but these people, their root is Judaism. That's what I'm saying. We
It,
can try
it
to split
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what their root is. If you have a son, and he's a homosexual, am I supposed to blame you and say, well, the root is Chris Wilson? So hey, if he's gay, Chris got to be gay.
and
No, that's ridiculous.
you're right. But I cannot take a teaching and say, I'm gonna throw this away, I'm gonna throw that away, I'm gonna use this. If you do that, you mean you're making up your own stuff, buddy. Because
No,
you
nobody's making up their own stuff, right?
not
It's
saying
something
you
called
are.
commandments of men, right? So you have something that was ordained and believed to be given to the Israelite people by God. That's called Torah, right? Then later
Mhm.
comes the Tanakh, the prophets. This commandments of men that some men sit down and wrote over the course of centuries called the Talmud is not something that I or any Israelite has to subscribe to. It's something that when the Messiah came, he was adamantly against. So we're
Who?
not,
You mean
I don't
Jesus?
have to, I don't have to take that in. All of the Israelites did not accept that. There was a sect of Israelites that propagated that. Not
Okay.
all the Israelites. The Zealots
Okay.
weren't adherents to it. The Essenes weren't adherents to it. You understand what I'm saying? So that's
hmm
different.
hmm But the root, what does the root doctrine say? The root doctrine say
The root doctrine don't talk about a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah. The root doctrine don't say anything about 13 and 12-year-old girls being taken to wife and procreating. It don't say anything. The root doctrine doesn't say anything about that. So that's why
okay.
I would be objective to it, because the root doctrine is objective to it. But you're
So,
right. If the root doctrine was in accordance with it, I would have to accept it. I can't pick and choose, or else, like you said,
so,
I'd just be creating my own thing.
so the same thing with the wife situation. It's like I said, I can go on and on and on. It's the same thing with the wife situation. They had more than one wife. Nobody said no one but America said you can have one wife. And that's Abraham. Abraham had more than one. He had a young one. He had 3, and he had a bunch of kids. So is it wrong to have in our terminology, it would be wrong to have more than one wife. But God, the God you believe in, the Most High, never said you can only have one wife.
Of course. We don't we of course don't teach that monogamy is what you have to practice, of course.
Okay.
But I wanna go on to the thing with Isis and Osiris. So we believe, or you believe, that these are beings that existed. So if you could tell me, you also mentioned a timeline of about 100,000 years. So was that the time period in which that the Isis and Osiris and Horus was on the scene?
I want to say it was about, I think that's like 75,000. I mean, I don't have an exact, I just know they were.
What gives you that ballpark figure of 75,000?
Yeah, 75, yeah. That's around the pyramid age. So I would say.
What gives you that ideology, that ballpark figure? What denotes that the pyramids were being constructed about that time, etc.? If you could elaborate.
I mean, they've done dating. They can't put an exact date on it, but they know
they've done dating. Who's done the dating, and what was the dating methodology employed? If you don't mind me asking.
We talked about the radiocarbon, which we kind of know that's kind of not technical. The tree dating, but you can't date something in the desert because there's no trees around. So we know the pyramids were there. Let's be safe to say at least 50,000 years ago. They know this for a fact.
Why is it safe to say? How do we know it is a fact? That's what I'm asking you. I need to know what verifies this as fact, that the pyramids was there 50,000 years ago. Because I study theology and I study anthropology at a college level, right? Every college professor that I've sat down with who deals with history said there's not actual history that dates back further than about 5,500 years ago. There's no written record of history that dates back further than 1,500 years ago. That's a fact. That is a general consensus of historians and scholars and professors. That's a fact. So I would really need to know what evidence existed to substantiate the construction of such a complex megalithic structure 50,000 years ago.
So you're telling me that these people, they can only trace back them being here 1,500 years ago?
I said 5,000. There is no historical record in the world that dates back further than that.
Okay, you believe that in your heart of heart?
I mean, that's all the evidence that's ever been displayed is that.
Nah. I mean
can you cite to me a source, a historical source? We're talking about. I need you to understand what I'm saying. We're talking about written history, historical record. There is not records of time periods dating back further than about 5,500 years ago. There's none. So if you would know one, I would love for you to cite the source, and I also would still like you to substantiate that the pyramids are 50,000 years old.
That will make no sense because the Torah is older than 5,000 years.
No, it's not. Torah is certainly not older than 5,000 years.
Well, not the Torah, but the people who was supposedly acting out the Torah was over 5,000 years ago.
No, certainly not. Who is accredited with receiving the Torah?
Moses.
So you mean to tell me that the Torah timeline from Moses to now was more than 5,000 years ago?
But you got to remember, what was he practicing before he got the Torah?
He was practicing whatever he was doing in Egypt.
What was Abraham practicing? Because Abraham had no written law, so he couldn't have been doing Judaism. So he was doing something that God was
no one is talking anything about Judaism, and you're missing the point. We're talking about the written record. Even if we take a look at the Torah and its account from Abraham to Moses, we're still not exceeding 5,500 years. So what I'm saying is that there's not a historical record dating back further than 5,500 years. And you're saying that there's a pyramid, a megalithic structure, complex, that was developed, a multiplicity of them, that were built 50,000 years ago. I need you to substantiate that, please.
Okay. Well, I can't substantiate it because I don't have the information on me to substantiate it. But the body of Osiris is older than 5,000 years.
Has the body of Osiris been recovered?
Yes, they found his body in the 90s when they were saying he was a myth. It was a myth. He didn't exist. It was a myth, and they found his body. So then,
where was his body found? If you could, like, was it in the pyramid?
They found him in the Valley of the Kings. No, the pyramids wasn't a burial site. They don't know what that was used for either.
Also, they found him in the Valley of the Kings, Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, boom, perfect. So that'll bring me to my next point. Since we're dealing with Osiris and them being actual beings, right? Mm-hmm. So are we familiar that these people, they practice incest, right?
Okay, we talked about incest last night.
I mean, it's why I bring it up because
did you get the questions?
He took. I got about. I don't know how many I did. I probably got about 4 or 5 of them. So he brought up incest to me. He said you had an interesting perspective on it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean the Egyptians made it back with their mother. I mean it's the same thing like I told them last night in the animal kingdom. If you ever raise dogs, they do the same thing. They don't mate with their brother and sister. They mate back with the mother because they mate with the brother and sister. The DNA is too close. Now, my point is this. Who told them to do that? These people were walking around wearing robes. Who instructed them? Who knew about genetics back then when these people had nothing?
We're talking about genetics now, right? So you brought out they do this in dog breeding. What type of dog breeding?
Most people that's raising profitable litters, pit bull. I just use pit bull because I know that's what most.
Well, yeah, a profitable litter as far as like you can sell these dogs for a high price.
Yeah, bloodline being pure, not having all kind of birth defects, the dog not staggering, when passing out.
Yeah, but you talking about them dogs with them big old heads. Those are the ones that are typically the ones who are bred with their mothers. Are those ones?
But there's a reason that the people pick to breed them with their mother because they do the brother and sister, the DNA will be too close. So that's true.
Go ahead, brother.
But
they definitely do that, but we have to understand there's different types of dog breeding. You do understand that, right? But so when you deal with the breeding of game dogs, they don't commonly practice that, and the game dogs are the healthy, the lean ones, and the more stout of the pit bull terrier kind of dog. Those are game dogs, and they commonly aren't inbred like that.
Okay, so
the healthier dogs, the dogs who are more able, the dogs with the higher intelligence, aren't the ones who are inbred. That's what I'm saying.
So I'm gonna ask you this: who told them to do that? How did they amass this knowledge to know that about genetics back then?
I wouldn't say that that's pursuant to the example that you used. I showed why genetically that's a bad example. That's just with dogs. So let alone with human. We're talking about it's okay for human beings to do that.
Noah did it. Noah.
Hold on. Wait. It's okay to have sex with your mother.
Here we go. These typical Israelite corner questions.
Brother, you just told me that.
I'm speaking on what the doctrine says. I'm not saying.
So according to the doctrine of ancient Egypt, it's not just okay, but it's wise to have sex and reproduce with your own mother.
They done it. Israelites done it too. Abraham.
Hold on, wait. I'm asking you about Egypt. It's okay in ancient Egypt. It's acceptable.
Yes.
And it's considered wise and encouraged to have sex with your mom.
Yes.
And reproduce.
One guy just said, I've been breeding dogs forever and no one would buy a breed that. That's a lie. Nobody would buy a pit bull if it been mated by 5 other females. The bloodline, it's no way the bloodline can be pure. If he has a razor's edge and a bull American and you breed them with a brindle, what do you have? You got American, brindle, and something else. You got a weak bloodline. You don't have one.
Okay, so I got a question. Noah had sex with his mom?
It said Noah was perfect in his generations.
Yes, sir.
That's what it says in the Bible. Now, who did he make?
What does that mean?
That means he was
being perfect in your generations doesn't mean you had sex with your mother, man. That's ridiculous.
to your interpretation. It doesn't
No,
say.
no. We have to deal with what the Bible says, right?
Okay,
The
so who
Bible
was on?
is very clear on this.
Okay,
Hold on.
so when did he
Right?
have time to make? When he was on?
Wait. Let's just deal with the laws of God here.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Leviticus 18:7. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. So this is a practice that is forbidden in the Torah. So you can't tell me that in order to achieve perfection, according to the Hebrew doctrine, one would have to have sex with his mother, because the law is what is considered the standard of perfection according to the Hebrew Israelites. So if it's against the law to do that, it's impossible to achieve perfection by making that practice.
So who was Noah's wife?
He had a wife.
Generation. How many?
Perfect in his generations. There's other people all throughout the Bible who are perfect in their generations. It has nothing to do with them having sex with their mother.
No. The Most High never said they were perfect in their generation. He only said Noah was perfect in his generations. So
that means that his wife was his mother.
I didn't say that. I'm asking you, who was his wife?
What does that mean?
Who was Noah's wife?
A woman that was not his mother.
How many wives did he have, and how many?
He had one wife. He had one wife. He had 3 kids.
Okay, so if he was perfect in his generation, who was he? Who was his kids mating with? Because he had.
What does the word? What does the word generation mean? What does the word generation mean? What does that mean? Can you break it down etymologically?
Yeah, I mean, a generation is according to what we know.
I want to know the etymology on
of a generation.
Yes.
Well, okay, my mother. Let's say a generation would be if I have children, and I have 3 children, and our family. And once it does it again, that's another generation. So me, my brother.
Okay, so what did that got to do with somebody reproducing with their mama?
First of all, we got on the reproduction of the mama because we were talking about ancient Egyptian practices.
Yeah. And then you try to put that on a biblical figure, and I'm just trying to understand how we're making that correlation there, because I'm not seeing it.
Well, I mean, of course they didn't do it. That's probably part of the law they didn't follow. That's a part they picked and choose not to subscribe to, because they probably thought that it was, oh well, this is crazy. I'm not going to do that.
Well, I mean, we do know about inbreeding and all the various dangers that has genetically on people, and we've been able to see it. We know how mongoloidism runs rampant amongst people who are inbred and things of that nature. So how is it the peak of genetics if it comes with a higher chance of birth defects than 2 non-relatives made?
Because our bloodline is already tampered now.
Oh, okay. So at that point in time, 50, 100,000 years ago, it was good, but just not now.
So let me ask you a question real quick. If, let's just say you were the royal family. Let's use them as an example. All right. They have a baby with me, and I have a child. Is that baby pure blood?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by pure blood. That's a definition. That's a definition that is subjective. Some people would say pure blood is both sides. Some people will say one side. Cultures differ on this. Some cultures deal with matriarchy. Some deal with patriarchy. Some deal with a balance of both. So we can't say it depends on what culture it is. And that culture would then be able to determine what a quote unquote pure is.
Okay, so if you have a child, if you got a pit bull and you let it mate with a chihuahua, is it a pit bull?
I don't breed pit bull, so we have to use another. So I need you to use another analogy, please.
If you have a Maltese and you let it mate with what's another dog? A poodle. Is it a Maltese anymore? When they have puppies, are those Maltese puppies, or are they mixed breed puppies?
Yes, those would be mixed breed puppies. When we talking about human beings, we talking about human beings though here, so that's a different thing.
But that means the bloodline's not pure. So the point I'm trying to make is,
listen. But again, you're talking dogs. I'm talking cultures.
But I'm getting to
cultures have a subjective interpretation on what the purity of a bloodline is. We have to deal with that aspect.
Okay, so let's get to that. If you're doing it with a dog and it's considered mixed, and if Osiris was doing it with his brother, and if Osiris and Isis were doing it, what's the difference? If another person comes from another,
because you have a human being and then you have a 4-legged beast.
Okay.
That's
Well,
a major difference.
let me pose it to you one more time. Let me pose it to you a different way. If somebody had never, let's just say they were a virgin, they never, whatever, they were mixed seed way back then. No one had tampered the bloodline. If they have a child with somebody from Mesopotamia, are they still whatever their lineage is? No. Once the child comes, it's mixed with that Mesopotamian.
No. Again, that's subjective to the respective culture.
How? It's
How?
the same.
Hold on, brother.
Blood is blood.
You are not an authority to dictate each culture and their practices. You're not an authority on that. You can't tell a culture that, for example, amongst Jewish people, they go by, if your mother is Jewish and you're Jewish, it doesn't matter what your father is. That's what Jewish people go by. Who are you to come in and dictate and tell the Jewish people, no, you can't do that. Both parents got to be Jewish. That's their culture.
No, I didn't.
That's what they want to do. So you can't say, oh, if they come and mate with somebody in Mesopotamia, they not that anymore. They mix with Mesopotamian. That's a false equivalency. That doesn't work with human beings and cultures.
Well, let me ask you this. Why did Abraham tell his sons not to mix and mate with the Canaanite? He was telling them that for a reason.
Yes, for a very specific reason.
He was
because of an ancient conflict that his ancestors and the Canaanites had. That's why there was such emphasis put on not mingling with the Canaanites. Okay, it was due to a conflict, not due to genetics.
But he lived with them and he buried his wife in the mountains. So what I'm saying.
But he didn't want to procreate with them because of the problems that they had with each other and their ancestors.
But his son did it anyway. And they bear a mixed breed son.
No, again, that is subjective. You can't tell me. Again, we're dealing with cultures now. This is why it doesn't work. You're following a self-determined logic that defies cultural precedents. You can't do that.
That makes absolutely no sense. If I got a couple,
how does it make no? Okay, so it makes no sense for a culture to dictate how they determine who is a member of it a certain way, and then you coming and saying to hell with however this culture acts amongst each other. To hell with that. We just gonna say this is that. You can't do that.
Because that's their opinion. Maybe they don't understand the doctrine and don't want to follow it. And that's what happens. That's what I'm saying.
So this is the doctrine. The doctrine is, in order to keep your lineage pure, one must mate with his close relatives.
Are you telling me that?
No, I'm asking you, is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's a thing of the past now, man. But the royal family do it. They do it to this day.
So
they don't care what nobody says. They still do.
Which is true, right? Because we all know they just had the royal wedding, and old girl, everybody's talking about that's a black girl, but she is related to them people, right? It came out that she's an actual relative of them people. I'm with you, right? Yes. But what I'm saying is now, this was a thing of the past. This was a thing that you're saying that Osiris and Isis and them was partaking in times of old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if I was an adherent to this doctrine and I participated in that now? Is that wrong morally, or is that okay?
I mean, if everything that's I'm not going to answer that, because that question will be here all day. Because if we go back to doing everything the old way, the world might not be in the situation it's in now. So that's a question that got an endless answer. So I mean,
if it's not going to be in the situation it's in now, will it be in a better situation?
Who knows, man? That's up for, we don't know. It's like inventing a time machine. We don't know. But what I'm saying is, when you saying in plants, when you're saying in dogs and all that stuff, all that's a cute way of saying it. But at the end of the day, if I got a cup of Starbucks coffee over here and I got a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee over here, it's both of them are coffee. But if I mix them, they're not the same coffee. The same as if I do anything that way. Once you mix and dilute it, it's diluted.
Again, but we're dealing with cultures here, though. That's what I'm saying. We can't compare coffee and dogs to cultures, brother.
But let me ask you this. I'm gonna pose this question. You probably never thought about it. If you take a black person and you take a white person and they mix,
yes, sir.
That person, we can talk till we blue in the face and say that person black, but that person is not 100% black. That person is mixed. Now, hold
on. But the question is not about being 100% black, Because if we follow if we follow the logic of modern science, secular science, there's nobody in America that's 100% black. So if we follow your logic, then with that in mind, there's no such thing as a black person.
Well, we're not gonna get technical. We mean African, whatever name we want to use to be politically.
No, because it's not 100% African, because they're going to tell you that 20% of black or 100% of black people in America got just about 20% European DNA.
Okay, so let's do this again. Let's say you had a baby with a Mexican. We had this conversation last night too. All right, you have a baby, a black person and a Mexican have a baby, right? That person, it's mixed breed. Now that's not saying nothing wrong with the child, but it's not pure. It's not.
So again, here's what you're not understanding. We're dealing culturally here. So culturally, it makes perfect sense, because each culture has its own right to determine whom and which is a member who is included into that culture and who is not, based upon their ancestral practices, right? So you may have, for example, in America, by definition, you know what the definition of a black person in America is?
I forgot what percent.
It's any person of full or partial lineage or any full or partial ancestry who were victims of the slave trade. Any person who has full or partial ancestry pursuant to the United States government is considered a black person. That's according to the United States government. Right?
Their definition.
That's what a black person is in America. That's the definition of it, right? Okay. So each culture has defines their own thing, right? So this is what I'm saying. If you say, okay, if a black person have a baby with a Mexican, is that baby, it's not fully black, but technically, according to the government's definition, it's considered a black person.
We're not talking about the government. What
we're talking about is a subjective definition that there's no one monopoly on it.
Okay.
There's no one monopoly on it. So you can't, we would have to deal with each culture. So if you're saying in ancient Egyptian culture, right, in ancient Egyptian culture, when 50 to 100,000 years ago, when Osiris and Isis and them was, according to you, on the scene, if you mix with somebody outside of that, you wouldn't be pure to that, and you wouldn't be. Which are you saying you wouldn't be included into the Egyptian culture, or what are you saying exactly?
They didn't do it, and they practiced it for a reason, and that reason is to keep the bloodline pure. The same reason that the royal family does it. So the next thing is, why would they be doing that? And the next thing would be, if you had a dog, you had a game-winning horse, that every time you mated, it pay you 60 grand. Would you let it mate with a mule? Would you take the baby from? No.
Hold on. But a mule is not a horse. You see what I'm saying? A mule ain't a horse.
Well, an old riding horse.
Mankind is mankind. Right. So that's why
blood is blood. Blood is blood. We can go into all these circles. And
hold on, blood is blood, right? So let's say right now, you needed a blood transfusion. Let's say you needed a blood transfusion, right? You lost your blood was bad, you needed a blood transfusion, right? The person who they took their blood from to get to you was a Caucasian person, a European person. That make you a white man now?
Man, that's not what I'm saying, man.
No, it is what you're saying. Because we talking about as blood, like it defines somebody. That literally means that you would be a European then, by your logic, if you got a blood transfusion and all white blood got pumped in you.
And that's the same logic as when you say Abraham is the father of all nations. It's the same dumb logic.
When have you ever heard me say Abraham was the father of all nations? I've never said it, never will said it. That's not even a biblical truth. So
let's get back on topic a little bit about these bloodlines. Let's say this. All right. You got different ethnic, like you were talking about ethnic people earlier. All right. You got these people, and if you go over there and mate with them, that people is not that people anymore. You can say what you want to say.
Certain people may feel that way. Certain may not feel that way. That's what I'm saying.
Let me finish the thought. If you were to move to Mexico right now and move to a village, and you had a baby by a Mexican girl, you had another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. Those babies wouldn't be Mexican. They would be mixed. So what I'm saying is...
No, that's not, again, that's, brother, you have to understand...
Let me finish.
No. I have to stop you because of how problematic what you're saying is. Do you know what? Do you know what it means to be a Mexican? Do you know what that means?
Let's
Do you
do
know
this.
that doesn't technically denote anything ethnically about you? If you live in Mexico and you're a citizen, you're considered a Mexican there. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background is. So for you to tell me if I moved to Mexico and had Mexican babies and babies wouldn't be Mexican, actually, yes, they would.
Well, that's a game you're playing because
I'm not playing a game.
Let me speak.
I'm respecting ethnic groups. I'm respecting science, and I'm respecting culture. I'm respecting all disciplines of anthropology. That's what I'm doing. That's what you're disrespecting in order to superimpose your logic. So if you could, please keep it logical. Go ahead.
Let's get back on ethnic groups. Let's not say Mexico. That's stupid. All right. Let's say somebody that we can see clearly. Let's say Irish. We know they have red hair. All right. So if you move, if a black man move over there and start having babies with Irish women, with all of them got red hair and whatever, when them kids come out as mixed kids, those kids they're not full Irish anymore. You can say what you want to say. They're going to have different features, just like the Ashkenazi and the Khazar Jews have the long, elongated noses, the certain ears. Same difference. Those, if you take that people, if I go mate with those Irish women right now, you can say what you want, but they're not Irish anymore. They look totally different. They're going to have a big nose, and you can do the same thing if you go down with the Chinese. You can do it with the Hispanics. You can do it with the blacks, the whites. You can do it with what's another class of people besides Irish? The Russians. You can do it with the Guatemalans because they're typically shorter. You can say Guatemalans are always typically the shorter ones. They don't look like Puerto Ricans. Now, why is that? Because maybe somebody went over there and they started breeding and they just kept breeding, and there's your sect of people. It's the same thing Hitler was trying to do. He was trying to create a sect of people. And that's the same thing we do. When we move in the woods, we create a sect of people. When you have children, they look like you. You know what I'm saying? They don't look like the guy next door. They have your features. So we can try to, we can get back to the dogs and say, well, if you've made a pit bull with a German Shepherd, that dog not gonna have pit bull features. Now it might look like it might have pit bull ears, but it ain't gonna have a pit bull body. It's gonna be differences in it. That's the point I'm trying to make. And the point I'm trying to make is that these Egyptians knew this way back then, and they were doing it. They knew about genes. They knew it, and they were doing it. Now, whoever moved in and stopped doing it, and whoever mixed the seed first and started doing all this other stuff, that's on them. But what I'm saying is that they were doing it. They knew what they were doing, and who are we to judge them and say they was wrong? Because we might not be here if they didn't do it.
Okay. With that being said, I have to reintroduce the question now. Okay. If I was to say, take my family to some remote place in the world and begin to try to reinstitute that practice, would I be wrong?
What you mean?
Like, according to you and what you know and what you've gathered from the studies of this culture and that practice, would I be wrong if I tried to start doing that again?
In this day and age?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you were doing your own thing, I mean, you got a reason for doing it. I mean, I can't judge. Judge ye, lest ye be judged. I'm not here to judge nobody. Jim Jones did it. When Marcus Garvey was saying let's go back to Africa, they didn't go. But when the white man said let's go back to Africa, they all followed him and they drank the Kool-Aid. So whatever people say, whatever their game is their game. But I can't knock them and say that what he did was wrong. Now, if you have
what Jim Jones did wrong?
What now?
Is what Jim Jones did wrong?
I mean, he was crazy, man. I mean,
Was it wrong? I want to know, was it wrong?
I felt like
to kill all them black people in the damn jungle. Was that wrong?
No, he didn't kill them. They knew what it was. They did it themselves, like Heaven's Gate. They were well aware of what they were doing. Nobody was, that's a whole nother subject though. That's a whole nother subject. But what I'm saying is that if you got a reasoning for doing it, and you're doing it for a reason, then what that reason is, we might not know, because the Egyptians had tons of kids, man. The pharaohs had tons of kids. David had a bunch, and David sinned. He had a baby. He had a mixed breed. Solomon was a mulatto. He broke.
Solomon was a mulatto. I love to. I gotta. How was Solomon a mulatto? Because a mulatto is something. A mulatto is something specific. We know that, right?
Well, he was mixed. He was mixed. He was mixed.
So is it a sin for Solomon's baby to be mixed?
Did David break the Kodesh or not?
But not hold on, but not in having a mixed child. That's not how he broke the laws of God.
Yes, he did not supposed to mate with the Canaanites, and he did it.
No, so Bathsheba was a Canaanite?
Yes.
Can you substantiate biblically that Bathsheba was a Canaanite?
Right. If I go grab my Bible, I'm pretty sure I could if I find,
I would love for you to do it, brother.
I know you would. But moving on. But it says Solomon was a mulatto when the Bible says belly.
Hold on, wait. A mulatto means black and white. That's what a mulatto means. Don't just mean mixed. So you mean to tell me who was white in his lineage, in his generations?
Let me do this. Let me not say mixed. Let me not say mulatto. Let me say he was mixed. He was not.
Even if he was mixed, I would need you to substantiate that he was mixed.
It's in your Bible when it said he had belly like ivory and his hair was like a raven's. Black man had not like a raven. His hair was straight. It said in the Bible. It gives you a description of something.
No, it says it's black like a raven. Then it said it was bushy.
Where?
That's in Songs of Solomon, the 5th chapter. See,
so,
it's funny. You make an assertion and you tell me what the Bible says. Then you ask me where. Like I gotta read it. Notice, no. I'll read it as soon as you prove to me Bathsheba was not an Israelite. Prove it.
Okay. So you mean now?
Yeah,
that'll take a few minutes for me to prove that, man. I have to go look up stuff.
Listen, man. Listen. You're not gonna put me on trial, but when I put you on trial, you don't answer the question. So you can't pose any question to me until you prove to me that Bathsheba, in fact, was not an Israelite, and also that the pyramids is 50,000 years old. While you're at it, I would love some evidence on that.
So was David pure blood? Was Solomon pure blood? Yes or no?
David wasn't
a black man.
No. Listen, David wasn't pure blood.
David was like me. I'm black, but I ain't pure black.
I'm not bold. David was not pure blood technically.
Okay.
But we're dealing with Hebrew Israelite culture. So when we're dealing with Israelite culture, it's not about being pure blood. It's about being pure lineage. Blood and lineage is two different things. So David and Solomon were both pure lineage.
Did David sin when he had the baby with Bathsheba? Yes or no?
No, he sinned by murdering Bathsheba's husband and committing adultery with Bathsheba, a married woman. That was his sin, not having a child with a woman who wasn't an Israelite, because we can't prove that Bathsheba wasn't an Israelite. And if she wasn't a Canaanite, then it's okay for him, no matter what nation she was, technically by law, to have a baby with her, because it's not technically a sin.
I mean, you're right. We can't even prove none of these people existed, really. But the only people that we
That's not true. That's not true.
The only people we can prove existed was the Egyptians. They're the only people.
How is it that if I can go to multiple cultures, I can see this very King David being wrote about by cultures that surrounded him in addition to his culture, and we're going to say that we can't prove that he existed. We can only prove the Egyptians existed because we can find their bodies, because Egyptians worship the damn dead. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so why can't we find the body of King David? I've never seen nobody say
why can't we find? Here's your problem. Here's what you've done. This is what you continually do. You try to culturally superimpose practices, brother. Right? Okay, you talk about pure blood as if, hold on. No, you need to listen so you can understand the error in what you're doing and why it's so problematic to your argumentation, brother. Okay. Here's what's happening, right? You talk about being pure blood. Israelites don't talk about being pure blood. They talk about being the seed of Abraham. So that's dealing with lineage. That's not dealing with quote unquote pure blood. One, that makes sense. Right? No, it makes perfect sense.
We ought to see
it makes
Abraham.
Perfect sense. How are we all the seed of Abraham? Is every person in the world the seed of Abraham? That's my question. Is every person in the world the seed of Abraham?
So what we basing the seed of Abraham off of?
A descendant of the man Abraham.
Okay, so where were these other people that had kids that were out there with children? How do we know
all over the world?
Okay, so how do we know that we're not their children? We don't.
What do you
It's
mean?
foolishness. It's rhetoric. We don't know. We just
all right. I'm going to tell you what foolishness and rhetoric is. Foolishness and rhetoric is you telling me that the pyramids were constructed 50,000 years ago and you're not having one shred of scientific or historical evidence to substantiate. That's foolishness and rhetoric. So let's not talk about that.
Even scientists will say they cannot put a date on the pyramids. You know why? Because they don't know how long.
So then why did you just put a date on the pyramids?
Because they've said at least 50 to 75,000 years old.
Who said it? What scientists? In what book? I need sources, brother. I need sources, man.
Man, we not. You want to Google?
Just like you said earlier, anyone can call themselves a doctor. Anyone can call themselves a scientist. Brother, please. Huh?
You want me to Google machine it, or you just?
I mean, give me something, please, and cite it.
Let's Google machine it. We'll Google machine it. All right. We all know not to go to Wikipedia. I hope.
Hold on, why not?
That can be edited. You can edit Wikipedia.
Listen, you can edit Wikipedia, but Wikipedia has sources cited with it, so then you could go and research the actual source that is getting its information from it. If not, it'll say citation needed. Wikipedia actually might help you out.
Nah. Well, we got writings. We got writings saying we got okay. Let me go back. Let's see. Okay, they're trying to say the Sphinx is 4,500 years old, and they know that that's not true. They done came out and said that numerous times. It's got to be older because it was there before the pyramid. I mean, it was there. They discovered it. It was in the sand, buried. However, with some recent studies have suggested that the Sphinx was built as long as 7,000 BC. The relatively new theory is based on what is thought to be precipitation-induced weathering on the upper areas of the Sphinx. Archaeologists supporting this view contend that the last time there was sufficient precipitation in the region to cause this pattern of rainfall erosion on limestone was around 9,000 years ago. So they're basically saying they don't know how old it is. Basically, they can only go by, well, we can say.
So where are we getting the 50,000 number figure from? That's what I'm saying. I could, if you just said, hey, look, I don't know how old it is. It's real old. You said 50 to 100,000 years. I need some substantiation for that.
But you just seen me say they said 45. Then you see they said 7.
No, they said 40. No, they said 4,500. Then they went to 9,000. 9,000. That's 41,000 years short.
But what I'm saying, I'm not talking about the 50,000. I'm talking about at first they said 4,500. Then they said 7,000. Then they saying
well, that's not a. Now, my brother, that's not a consensus.
They don't know.
That's not a consensus. You have some scientists who have concluded 4,500, and you have other scientists who have concluded 9,000. That's what that just said. So not that there's a consensus that went from 4,500 to 9,000. There's 4,500 was a consensus. Then new information came, and some scientists concluded 9,000.
So with it, whatever the date was, we got Egyptian records that's saying that the pyramid were there when they got there. So, like I said, it's
what is the date on them Egyptian records?
I think the problem that I have, man, it's hard to talk to people that only stuck in one doctrine. Like, you know, I'm not only stuck in one doctrine. I've studied the doctrine that you are talking about, brother. And you want to know how I've studied it? If you've been paying attention to this whole thing, you can tell I've studied it because I've referenced certain things about it that one would have to have studied it in order to know. So ain't nobody just stuck in one doctrine. I study any doctrine around the world. I have to study it if I want to deconstruct it. So I'm not just stuck in one doctrine. I'm not even having a doctrinal or theological discussion with you as far as that question. I'm having a scientific. I study anthropology. So anthropologically, I'd like to see evidence. Well, let's say this. We don't know how old the pyramids is. We know for a fact that they're not 5,000 years old. We
But
know that
the
they're older.
the general scientific consensus is 4,500 that you just read.
Okay, so let's say 4,500. Let's stick with that, which I know is not true, which I hope you know is not true, because people were here. You know, that's just like them saying people only 6,000 years old. You know, the Bible is only 6,000 years old. And so you saying people are only 6,000 years old. Whoever believes that is crazy. You know, it's the same thing. Like some of this stuff
can we prove it though? I just need you. If it's so crazy, I need you to prove it.
You can prove that we not 6,000 years old.
Why isn't there history that supports that?
Writing on the wall way older than 6,000.
Can you prove that?
Can I? I can't prove it.
If you can't prove it, I want to understand how, if you can't prove something, what gives you the confidence to assert as if it's a substantiated fact that it's older than that when you admittedly can't prove it?
Because we're using the same references. We're using what somebody else is telling us. I can't go put my hands on the pyramid and say it's this many years old. I'm using information.
So why do you think it's older than that?
Because other writings I've read, other books, the Sumerian tales speak of it people being here. The Book of Thoth speaks of it being here.
What is the Sumerian? Oh, hold on. What does the Sumerian tale speak of? What is the timeline on it?
Sumerian was the first civilization here, they said.
And I agree, and that's biblical. But the question is, what timeline does the Sumerian text give for people?
What's the question? How old are people?
No. The question is, if you're saying that this is 50,000 to 100,000 years old, I would just like a way for you to prove that.
How can I prove it? Giving you a reference to a book?
Listen, giving me a reference to a book is giving me a logical reason for why you've came to the conclusion. So I just want to know how you come to this conclusion that it's this old, if we can't see any history or science or anything that's pointing to that late in time, or that early in time, rather.
Well, I read the Sumerian tablets. I read the story of the Anunnaki, and it speaks that they were here 100+ thousand years ago.
Okay. Now, so the Anunnaki, so the Sumerian tablets says 100+ thousand years ago.
But that's what in your biblical record. So you're not going to be able to.
No. Listen, I'm not asking you nothing about biblical records. I'm asking you about what you're talking about. So you're telling me that the Sumerian tablets say that the individuals that it's talking about are from over 100,000 years ago.
It said they were here 100,000 years ago.
It says that verbatim in the Sumerian tablets.
I mean, yeah, it's we were here.
Okay, so the Sumerian tablets say that.
They gave reference points of a shard was 3,600 years, 36,000 years, 3,600 years, and they searched so many shards, and that's how we get the time period of the time they were here. Okay, so how did they keep time? What was a year? What methodology did they employ to keep time in ancient Sumeria? Are you familiar? They had watches. They used probably the same as Egypt, the sundial. And I mean, that question is here nor there because they knew about the
question is important. Hold on. Here's why the question is so important, brother. Because you said that it says in this documentation
you're taking your
incidences occur. Wait, hold on. I'm not putting any interpretation. You said that you read a document. You're saying that this document says emphatically that the individuals it's talking about are over 100,000 years old, but you can't even tell me what a year is to that culture to be able to really say what the timeline is talking about. You would have to know how they determine a year in order for them to say, in order for you to determine how old it is as far as we understand a year in this time.
Exactly. A year in our time is when the earth rotates around the sun. That's a year, right? According to us.
A year according to modern science is a year according to the modern calendrical system is 365 to 366 days.
Okay.
That's a year according to the modern calendrical system. You said what?
24-hour days, right?
Yes, 365 24-hour days. Did the Sumerians subscribe to the same dating system?
I'm going to show you how what you just said it makes sense. So
Go ahead.
the way we got the days and the hours is from someone else. We got time scales from other people that were here before us. Mm-hmm. So where did they get it from? What were they using? You asking me what they were using to differentiate a year when they the ones said this was a year, and that's what we using. So we can't ask them what they
so the Sumerians went by a 365 to 366 day, 24-hour day year. That's what you're saying?
I don't know that to be 100% fact.
See, and this is why I'm asking you, because in order for you to tell me that this book says that these people existed 100,000 years ago, which I call a bluff on that, one, and then two, if it's 100,000 years, how do they calculate a year? So we can then take a look at that and measure it versus how we calculate a year and determine the time period. This is how scientific methodology works. This is how logic works, brother.
I'm gonna show you how what you're saying don't make sense. What you say to me makes me think the same thing that some of these archaeologists go over there in Egypt and say, well, they couldn't have meant this, they meant this. How could you tell these people what they meant? The reason that we have north, south, east,
no, that's actually brother. That's what you just did. Hold on, but that's what you just did. You're telling me that these people said that the Anunnaki allegedly existed 100,000 years prior to them writing it. But you can't tell me what 100,000 years is to them because you can't tell me how their calendar worked. But you're telling me that it's the equivalent to the way our calendar works. By you throwing around these terms 100,000 years ago, that's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that you asking me how do they know it's 100,000 years ago or whatever what time reference?
No, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you how do you know it's 100,000 years ago?
I don't know. I'm only going by what they're saying. If they say
so if they say
to them 36,000 years, what did it say in the Bible?
A day to the Lord is 1,000 years.
That's the same thing the Anunnaki was saying. They were saying we age different, nigga. We ain't aging like y'all humans. One year, one day to us is like we not aging the same. So how could that same science they were talking get in your Bible? Because it's the same people. And what I'm saying is the same thing you're saying about I'm gonna use north, south, east, and west. We got that from other cultures of how to map it. We don't know what's the center point of the universe. When I look ahead of me, I'm looking north.
It's subjective.
Wait, let me finish.
Culture.
When I look in front of me, I'm looking north. I don't know what true north is unless I have a compass. And if I'm using a compass, the compass is calculating off the magnet of wherever the magnetic pull is. That's what they're using. So I can't say if we're walking in the forest what north is if I don't have any tools. I can look at the sun. I can do all this stuff to help me, but I don't know. So I'm using somebody else's formula. I can't say that their formula is wrong and I'm using it. I can't say what
I'm not saying that their formula, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that their formula is wrong. I'm saying that if it says in their writings, you said what? That's an Egyptian concept. That's an Egyptian concept. Hour goes back to the hour goes back to the Egyptian word for Horus. That's what an hour is. That's a 24-hour day is an Egyptian concept. We understand that. But here's the thing. I'm not. Hold on. Wait. No. I just let you finish. Now, what you just told me is that I'm saying that their science is wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm asking you to qualify their science so I can better understand it, since you're speaking from a point as if you're an expert in it and you're making definitive statements about it. I'm asking you to clarify how they calculated what a year was. And the reason why I'm asking you that is to say, okay, if they calculate, you can't calculate a year by a sun. That don't even make sense unless you're just counting days. What you have lights in the heaven. What changes every day? What changes every day? What light in the heaven is different every day?
What light in the heaven?
Yes, sir.
You mean the morning, Venus, the morning star? What you mean? The sun rising.
Venus is not even always visible, so we can't even say. I'm not saying Venus. Okay. What changes every day in the heavens is the moon. The moon is different every day, right? So to say that you're calculating a year by the sun, you could do that, but all you're doing is just counting how many times you've seen the sun and saying this is a year. You're not factoring in a whole lot, right?
Exactly. And
so that's why I'm asking you, how did these people determine a year? What was a year? How many days? What astrological events, meteorological events did they factor in to determine their year and their seasons? This is something that we would have to know when they say 100,000 years, what they meant and how we put that into our terms. We would have to understand all of that.
That's either here nor there.
No, it is, brother. It's called logic. It's called scientific methodology. It's called history, brother. If you were to study any of this information at a college level, you would have to know all this.
Makes no sense. You know why? Because 100 years. I said 100 years ago they were saying that the sun.
Go ahead, you good.
100 years, it makes what you're saying really doesn't make sense, because 100 years ago people were getting killed for saying that the earth wasn't flat. Until scientists find out certain things, they used to think that the sun rotated around the earth. That's
an entirely separate conversation.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. No, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna show you why, right? Yes, this is absolutely ridiculous. And as much as you allege that you've studied, you would have to study more, and that's why, that's why you're having such an issue with it. You haven't studied this at the highest level. You are, because you're lacking comprehension in what I'm presenting to you right now. Right? Here's what I'm presenting. I'm not presenting anything. I'm saying I'm asking you to answer a question pursuant to academic standards. Here's my question. What was a year to the Sumerians, whom you assert said that the beings that they wrote about were 100,000 years old? What was a year to them?
I think I want to say 300, and like it wasn't 365, like 364 days that they were counting the planetary alignment. Because remember, they came here and told us about the planetary alignment. So we can't question them. We got to question what we know, because
I would have to question them, because I would have to believe that these are extraterrestrial beings that came to Earth and told anybody anything. I would have to subscribe to that.
Wait a minute, let me finish. What I'm saying is that if they said it, it's our job to find out they're lying. It's not our job to say they're lying when we don't know. So we can't say what they saying is wrong, because we don't know. They told us about the planets. They told us about Mars, Earth, Mercury, Venus. They had a picture on the wall with the planets going around the sun. Way a long time ago. We look, you know what we did? We so arrogant. We looked at it and said, nope, these people crazy. That's not true. And then in years they find out that it was true. Just like the body of Osiris. They find out that he lived. They said it was a myth. It's not true. It's not true. But they found out that this guy walked and talked the earth. So that means everything that they said that happened. But before, we were saying, nope, that didn't happen. That was a myth. None of these people were here. Blah, 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 blah.
Great, right? So because that a body that they say was Osiris was found, that means everything that's written about Osiris is true. It actually occurred. It's right and exact. 100% happened.
If it's Egyptian writings in the right time period, yeah. If it's writings in the time period that he lived, and not nobody making it up, it's true. Because remember, they said it was fake.
Okay, so like for example, right? If let's say 100 years, 100 years I'm dead, right? Okay. They find my body, but they see a legend about all the things I was doing. I was walking on water. I was calling fire from heaven. I could fly, right? All right.
Go ahead. I had to go get me a drink. Sorry.
You're all right. Yeah, no, I'm about right there myself. I'm about right there. So let's say there's a legend written about me and people say, man, this is fake. Then they're going to find my body. That substantiates everything that was written in that book about me.
What you mean?
Like if somebody finds there's a legend, a book about me that says I did all this amazing stuff. I had superpowers. Then they come and dig my corpse up. They deny it's a legend. Then they dig my corpse up and say, well, this is the God. So it must be true. Just because they found my body, it got to be true?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if these people that were around him at the time period If you die and somebody on the other side of town slandering your name, man, he was full of shit, he was this, he was that. Go to his family, man. He wasn't nothing like that, man. This is what really happened. That's what I'm saying. As I started this conversation, I was saying people have tall tales, man. I mean, things change over time periods. Explanations change, interpretation change, understanding changes. So if Osiris, if all this stuff took place and his brother cut him up into 14 pieces and all this stuff happened, they said that all of this was a myth. Because remember, you asked me earlier about these people's body, but I can guarantee you they know where Muhammad's body is. I can guarantee you they know where they buried Gandhi. They know where all these other people at that were on the earth. They know where their bodies are. But you cannot find the body of none of these disciples, Jesus, none of these people, but you can find all of the Egyptian records. So if these people over here talking about this guy, oh man, we had a God, he was great, he did this, he did that, and then you say, well, where's his body at? Oh well, nobody never found it. How can you substantiate the claim? You can't.
Okay. Quick question: do you know where your great-great-grandfather was buried?
Well, I do know this. If my great-great-granddaddy was a great person and he was this and he was that, he would have a marker where he laid.
So your great-great-granddaddy wasn't a great person?
What I'm saying is that if he walked on water and if he healed the sick and if he did all this stuff and we praised and worshiped him, he would have a marker where he laid at. Just like
but here's my question, right? So are you saying that the Christ of the Bible is not an actual person?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
But you're asserting it by saying we can't find his body.
I mean, he's supposed to ascend it, right?
Yeah, but is he an actual person? Did he exist?
It said in the Bible that he ascended. So we're not gonna find his body. But his disciples didn't ascend. And do you
believe hold on, but do you believe that he existed, right? At any time. I'm not even asking you about the ascension. Did he exist according to you? Yes, sir.
Jesus Christ?
Yes, sir.
No. I believe it's a myth.
You believe it's a myth, but historians of that time and the people who crucified him have that all documented that this occurred and that he had a cult of followers. So his disciples and his existence is attested to by people of various cultures during the time period in which he existed that were contemporary with him. So are you mean to tell me that finding a body supersedes multiple historical eyewitnesses?
What happened to him?
He ascended, you know.
But where did the disciples ascend to? Well,
there is something called. See. Here's the problem. Again, this is the problem. You're stuck in a doctrine, and now I'll explain. Because you are trying to hold one culture to another culture's standards of burying dead people. Do you know how Hebrew Israelites buried each other? Do you know anything about that culture?
No.
You don't. So then how can you go on to try to hold another culture to the standard of another culture's burial rites?
Jews and Israelites follow the Torah under my interpretation, and it gives you explanation of how you're supposed to bury the dead in the Torah, as it does how you're supposed to use alcohol and other things too.
And where is that at? Where is that at in the Torah?
What?
Burial instructions.
I mean, it tells you that how they bury. They wait, that what is it, before sunset and all that, before sunset, before the sun sets and all that. Correct?
Yeah, but outside of that, what burial instructions were given?
I don't know.
Can we substantiate what was the most important part of a dead person? Are you familiar at all with the Jerusalem necropolis or anything like that?
No.
So for you to now make blanket statements about a culture of people whom existed in time
listen,
and try to hold them to another culture standard, you can't do that.
I hate to sound like this too, but we're not talking about, and this is the thing that Hebrew Israelites do. I'm telling you, they try to get off on other topics. I'm not talking about the burial rites and all of that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about we're gonna get back to the topic. Wait. We're gonna get back to the topic, and we're gonna say, where are these great people's bodies?
And that's why we no, that's on topic. The reason why I'm asking you these questions is if you're not familiar with that, that's why you're asking where these great people's bodies are at, because you're not familiar with Hebraic burial customs. And if you were familiar, you wouldn't ask that ignorant question, because it's ignorant. Only someone asks that only out of ignorance and trying to hold one person's standard, one culture standard to another standard that it doesn't have.
So you telling me that they wouldn't leave any directions or tell anybody where they would place their dead? So when
did I say that? When did I say that? I asked you about a Jerusalem necropolis, and I asked you if you were.
I didn't read that.
No, it's not. It's not a document. It's an archaeological location.
Okay, so is Jesus' body there?
I didn't say Jesus. Why would Jesus' body be there?
I mean, he ascended. You're right.
It's ascension. I don't need his body to know that he existed, because multiple historians whom were contemporary with him all attest to his existence. Not one contemporary of Christ has ever disputed his existence.
Okay, so all the other great men, why aren't they in the necropolis?
Why aren't they? Because the necropolis is from a certain. There are disciples in the necropolis.
Which one?
See, this is what I'm saying. If you don't know anything about the necropolis, you can't make any statement about it, because you know nothing about it.
Okay.
Right or wrong?
True.
Okay.
True. You're right.
So what you should do is research the Jerusalem necropolis. Necro meaning dead, opolis meaning city, city of the dead, existed outside of Jerusalem.
And you know where they got that from?
And then once you study, no, it's not where they got it from, because once you study the Jerusalem necropolis and the burial customs of it, you'll begin to understand the burial customs of the ancient Israelites, and then you won't make these ignorant statements like you've been doing about where's these bodies.
Okay. Is the customs anywhere similar to Egyptian burial? I guarantee you it is.
No. Okay. So in Egypt, did y'all have boxes where you would place your, hold on. In ancient Egypt, did you have a box where you would place bones at?
Oh, the necropolis. Oh man, I have heard about that. It's like a big room where all the bones are at.
Each particular family has its own room, and in that room you would put the bones of each person. You see what I'm saying? That's Hebraic customs, is dealing with bones, not dealing with mummifying bodies and preserving bodies. Literally just taking people's bones. Right? When Moses went out of Egypt, according to the narrative, right? What did they go get of Joseph?
When Moses
they went and got the bones. You see what I'm saying? It's all about getting the bone, as opposed to in Egypt, where we are mummifying whole bodies and things of that nature. They're going taking measures of preservation of the flesh by embalming the bodies and things of that nature. Okay. Israel, all they want is the bone.
But you know why? But see, and that's another thing when you're talking about embalming the flesh. The Egyptians, they done that for a reason, and that's the
I'm not disputing that. And that's their culture, and they have a right to it. But what I'm saying is, as Israelites, that wasn't a practice that we adhere to or follow.
Okay, that's fine.
So this is why you're not discovering the bodies of these individuals, because that wasn't our custom. We put bones in boxes.
Yeah, they ate their children too. But that's fine. That's fine.
Well, cannibalism was something that happened in Egypt as well as incest. I mean, like you said earlier, who are we to judge? If incest is cool, what's wrong with cannibalism?
I mean, you're right. I mean, you're right. I can't deny that. But that's what I'm here to try to eradicate. I'm not here, and I think that's what happens a lot, man, is that what happens with a doctrine that I've noticed, people take doctrine and they want to make it into what they want it. Whether it be good or bad, that's what these people practice. So who are you? If you get to taking bits and pieces, you're using what you want to use, and that ain't right. The Hebrews, especially the tribe of Judah, was very strict. So Jesus had to live a very strict life. I mean, he had to under the rules that they were living under. So a lot of that stuff don't make sense, like the burial, the disciples saying this and saying that. The only person being able to get his body, would had to have been his wife. That's Judaic practice. It couldn't have been his mom. So it's just things like that. There's so many inconsistencies in the book that you're reading. It doesn't make sense. I think we kind of got a little off topic as far as the burial thing. that was kind of irrelevant, you know. If somebody was a famous person, they still would have their bones marked, in my opinion. You know,
I mean, that's not cultural, and the reason why is because Israel was a nation of people who wanted to prevent idolatry at all costs. So you wouldn't mark a famous person's bones necessarily just to. I mean, it's ridiculous to again for you to superimpose that. My device is getting ready to die. So what I want to do is I want you to close out, give your closing statement on it. This has definitely been enjoyable. So go ahead, give your last word.
Man, we didn't touch none of the questions. We didn't touch none of the questions, man.
We went over multiple questions.
Nah, we had okay. Let me ask some of the questions I had. If you got a second. Hold on one second. Okay, so let's get to some of these questions. Is ancient Egypt the birthplace of all religions?
No.
Okay. What makes you say no?
Because there's a lot of different religions around the world that are in no way related to ancient Egypt. And I would say a lot of what Egypt practiced was stuff that they acquired from ancient Sumer as well.
Okay. Okay. So, man, we did kind of, so let me see. We hit, does incest produce stronger bloodline? Is the white woman God? So, okay.
Yeah, like I said, we hit some stuff. Whatever else you got, go ahead.
Why are you guys so hell bent on being Hebrew Israelites? That's a really important question I want to ask.
Because of the importance of it being emphasized by our ancestors.
But you do know your lineage goes before Hebrew, because Abraham was a Chaldean first. So he
wasn't of the lineage of the Chaldees, though. He wasn't of the lineage of the Chaldees. He was the lineage of Eber, which was what made him a Hebrew, who came through Shem. But he lived in the land. He lived in Ur of the Chaldees.
You can't have.
If you move, if you move. Yes, he was called a Hebrew because he descended from Eber. Hebrew means a descendant of Eber, right? So that's why they called him that.
Hebrew doesn't mean that. Hebrew does not mean that. Hebrew
why? Yes, it does.
Hebrew means to cross.
Do you know the lineage of Abraham?
Yeah.
What is the significance? What is the significance of Abraham being called a Hebrew?
Because he crossed over the Tigris Euphrates.
No, that's ridiculous. Was he does he have a monopoly on crossing the Tigris and Euphrates River? No, he doesn't. Plenty of people have done it before him and after him. Hebrew means a descendant of Eber. There was a man named Eber. He is one of the grandparents of Abraham. Hence the significance of why. Of course, I speak Hebrew.
Okay, what does Ibrit mean? Hebrew.
What does Ibrit mean? It means from the past. That's what it means, from the past.
Root word from, where you getting your root?
What do you mean when I get that is the root. Ibrit is the root. It means from the past. It means from the past. All right. Well, you listen, you could tell me whatever you think, right? Unlike you, I speak and I study the Hebrew language.
Oh, Miss Shlomek. Okay. Well, okay, I mean, I can't say I'm fluent in Hebrew, but what I'm telling you now is that if Abraham was a Chaldean, it's no way that his bloodline. He was a Chaldean.
Okay, no. All right. So move. So that's like me saying if you move to Poland. If you move to Poland, or you're a black man that's born in Poland, there's no way you're African or no way you're black because you're from Poland. That's ridiculous. He lived in a city that was called Ur. That city was a city established by the Chaldees. He lived in Ur, the Chaldees. He did not descend from the Chaldees, though. That's a difference.
Okay. So how did he get there?
How did he get there?
He moved around.
Yeah, he did move around.
Where did they come from? So
where did he come from?
Hold up. These stories are the story that you're getting into that's pre-Bible. Excuse me. These are pre-Bible stories. So it's hard.
Where he come from is not pre-Bible. That's in the Bible.
Okay. So he lived in the land of Uber. He was a Chaldean. He was a fire worshiper, correct? Until he got his so-called epiphany.
He was an astrological. He worshipped the astrological bodies as his father Terah.
Okay, but he left there and he changed his name, correct? And I said earlier, when you study under certain schools in ancient Egypt, they give you the person that you studied under. So he changed when he went to Egypt.
So
his
Abraham.
name,
So who did Abraham change his name to?
What was his name before it was Abraham?
Abram.
Okay, why did they put the ham on the end of it?
Ham was not what was put on the end of the name.
Okay, prove it. Prove it. Show you got some proof.
No. Listen. If you were smart, see, you just missed the opportunity. The ham wasn't on there. The raham was put on there. The raha was put on there.
And let me ask you this: where else does the raham? Where does that come from?
Doesn't come from ancient Egypt.
Wait. What word is that?
Doesn't come from ancient Egypt. What does Ra mean? What does Ra mean in the ancient Egyptian? No. Here's the question. No. Because this is why it's a false equivalency. Because you're not a scholar in linguistics, brother. What does Ra mean in Egypt? What does that mean in Egypt?
It has a couple meanings actually. It means to see, and it means it's an equivalent of the sun. It means Atum Ra. When you put certain things on it, it means it changes the name. The only language that's fucked up is English. So we know that.
Okay, so what does Ra mean in Hebrew?
I don't know.
Evil.
Okay.
So it doesn't, just because it's a similar sound, it doesn't translate.
So let me ask you this before you keep going. Was Egyptian first or was Hebrew first? Egyptian would have had to have been first.
So that according to the Bible, Egypt is first.
But that means the Hebrews stole their meaning from. That means they.
Hold on. If the Hebrews stole their meaning, then why doesn't the word mean the same thing? Why didn't steal anything if it doesn't mean the same thing?
Let me ask you this. Who got the word first? The Hebrews or the Egyptians?
That's a matter of scholastic debate.
Okay, so
but it doesn't matter who had it first. See, but because again, this is why what you're doing. What you're doing is called a false equivalency, right?
No, I'm not.
Let me show you. This is
okay.
All the arguments that you're making are so scholastically flawed at their core. I'm going to continually show this, right? There's a word in the Italian language. It's called muli. What does muli mean in the Italian? Are you familiar? They use it as a racial epithet. It means eggplant. That's what it means in Italian. Eggplant, right? Then we have Italy, right? Then on the other side of the world, you have a place called Samoa. They have the same word. Hold on. You're having an issue with understanding and academic methodology. Listen.
That makes no sense.
Yes, it does. The only reason why you don't think it makes sense is because you haven't studied at the scholastic level, brother.
Well, let me
you haven't. It's evident. No, you can't ask me anything. Let me finish my point.
Okay,
Let me finish my point, exposing how flawed your argument is. Muli in Italy, it's the same exact word. It's spelled the same exact way. It means eggplant in Italy. On the Isle of Samoa, it means posterior, your buttocks. That's what it means there. But it's the same word. It's the same letters. It's vocalized the exact same way, but it doesn't mean even relatively the same thing. So you can't say, well, because the Egyptians had Ra and they had it first, that the Hebrews had to get it from there. You can make that argument if it meant the same thing, but it doesn't.
Let me ask you this.
We're dealing with sun, and then we're dealing with evil. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. If somebody makes up a word, you know what I'm saying? Listen to me now. Listen to me good. If I invent a word right now, and I go out here and I say this word means this, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you can put it in whatever language you want to say and say it means this, but I'm the inventor of the word. So in my language, it means this.
So ancient Egypt, hold on. So ancient Egypt has a monopoly on sounds.
Huh?
Ancient Egypt has a monopoly on sounds.
Well, the Sumerians had the first cuneiform tablet, the first text.
I'm not talking about cuneiform tablets. I'm talking about sound. I'm talking about vocalization. When you have a baby, that baby, before you teach it anything, naturally makes consonant sounds. Ra, ah, ba. These are the sounds that the baby makes. Ancient Egypt does not have a monopoly on the natural sounds that a human being makes at its most primitive stages of development
makes
and
exactly no sense.
communication.
You know why? Because everybody
That's
on
what
the
you're
planet was
saying
speaking,
right now.
everybody on the planet was speaking the exact same language, and everybody knew each other according to your Bible, except the Tower of Babel.
And I agree. And
Okay,
with that being said, that means the ancient Egyptians. And with that being said, that means the language didn't come from the ancient Egyptians.
Okay.
So they don't have a monopoly on Ra and what it means.
So whoever used Ra first has the monopoly on it. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, and that would be the Hebrews. See, this is why you have to study.
First. It's in the temple,
yes, they did, and this is the problem. This is why you have to study. This is why when you say you think Hebrew means to cross over when Hebrew means from the past. And the reason why we were called the Hebrews because we spoke the language that was spoken from the past, meaning before the fall of the Tower of Babel. That's literally what being a Hebrew is and what it means, speaking the language that predated all the other languages. So actually, we have the monopoly on it.
So the point is, why does Abraham have Ra in his name when Ra is an Egyptian word? Ham is an Egyptian word.
Hold on. Ham is not an Egyptian word. This is again the level of pseudo that you have presented over the course of this time. I mean, there's people who would pale in comparison.
Where was the word Ra? Where was the word Ra first spoken? Where was Ra?
The word Ra was first spoken when human beings began to communicate at their most primitive stage of development.
But where was it recorded first? In Mesopotamia, Egypt, or Hebrew?
I would say in Mesopotamia.
Hebrew wasn't before Egypt. So
in Mesopotamia. In Mesopotamia.
Okay. So they said Ra. So that means the Hebrews took it. They took it and gave it the meaning that they wanted.
Taking something that I could bring my son in here and he could say Ra. Did he take that from somebody?
We ain't talking about
that's a part of the natural development of a human being, and these are natural sounds that people make.
Man, that makes no sense. You know what I'm saying?
You can keep saying things make sense, but everybody's seeing who's making sense and who's not making sense. Everybody's seeing who's bringing scholastic information. Everybody's seeing how methodology is being employed. Everybody's seeing who's studied, brother. Everybody's seeing that.
Okay. Well, most of this information that you're bringing is all Hebraic information. So if you got somebody that's got a Hebraic mindset and that's all they're going to study and that's all they're going to know.
Listen.
But until
my brother, let me explain something to you. I've blamed them with brothers who are far more studied in the ideology that you're a proponent of than you.
So,
when they see this, they're going to be highly disappointed in you.
Let's end it on this note. All right. Where did the Hebrews get their doctrine from?
Where did the Hebrews get their doctrine from? God.
Okay. Where did their God live? Where was he from?
Not on the planet Earth.
So who went back and came with the tablets?
Moses went back and came with the tablets.
Who did he get them from? Because they said they were written by the hand of God.
Yes, he got it from angels.
Angels.
Yes, sir.
Okay, his name was Moses, right?
Uh-huh.
And he was from where?
What do you mean, where was he from? Like, where was he born? The land of his nativity? Egypt.
Where was he raised at for 40 years?
Egypt.
Okay. He went to somewhere, get some tablets, and come back. So where do you think who did he get those tablets from? A Sumerian?
He got those tablets from angels, not any earthly ethnic group.
Can you prove he got them from angels?
Can you prove he didn't get it from angels?
Yeah, because I know that the god of writing was Thoth in ancient Egypt, and his name was Thutmose. And I know that Moses' name is Moses, and he wrote the tablets.
Oh, but Moses' name is transliterated as Moses into English. That's not his Hebrew name. His Hebrew name is Mashar. Can you explain to me linguistically how that relates to Thutmose?
No.
Because it doesn't. Because you're pseudo. That's what that means.
So he did get his. So he did the patriarch of the person who brought the tablets into existence was an Egyptian. The argument I'm making is that it all.
He wasn't an Egyptian. He lived in Egypt. So did all the other Israelites.
Okay. He lived in Egypt for 40 years. He was an Egyptian. He was born, bred, and raised by Egyptians. He knew Egyptian signs. He knew Egyptian magic. When he went back to the Pharaoh and threw the snake down, he thought it was doing something.
So what parallels of the tablets that he brought, what parallels can you show me of ancient Egypt?
What you mean, with Abraham?
No, of the tablets that Moses brought down from the mountain, which of them paralleled ancient Egypt?
Oh my God. Have you ever read the Negative Confessions?
Yes, and I've done it. No. Brother, again, you should have did your homework. No. You should have. Everybody on this live saw me last summer go verbatim, pull all the Negative Confessions up and pull the Torah up and go side by side and showed that there's only 6 similarities between the two. We have 613 commandments versus 42 Negative Confessions. There's only 6 that match up, and all those 6 are common sense things that every civilization that has ever existed has employed and instituted as rules amongst each other, because nobody wants to be getting adultery committed on them, getting stolen from, or being killed. And those are the things that are similar between the two cultures. Outside of that, you cannot display to me anything. If we stole it from Egypt, why don't we have all 42 Negative Confessions there? Why do we only have 6 of 42? And that is the only thing that contributed to our 613.
If you're trying to copy something, if Future, if Designer trying to sound like Future, you think he's gonna say the exact same thing he say? No, he's gonna.
But he does say the exact same thing Future says. He does say, brother, there's only 6 parallels between the 42 Negative Confessions and the 613 Laws and Commandments. 6. Okay. I've displayed it. I've went side by side. I've read all the Negative Confessions. So you can't tell me anything about this. This is on YouTube. Okay.
So if they had their own doctrine, shouldn't be no comparison. If they had their own doctrine that didn't
Chris, listen. What is the comparison? Not to kill people, not to rob from people, and not to have sex with people's wives. Are you telling me that? No. Are those not sensible rules that everybody should employ in their civilizations?
According to who? Over there in Saudi Arabia, if you steal, they cut your hand off, and that's the way it's done. And people that steal know.
My God! Wait a minute. This is ludicrous.
Wait a minute. People in Saudi Arabia, if they get caught stealing, they get their hands cut off and they get a public execution. And people that live in Saudi Arabia know that, and they know if they get caught, they know what they're facing, but they do it anyway. So who brought up that has nothing to do with the question I asked you. Does Egypt have a monopoly on outlawing murder? Yes. Nobody was doing this.
All right, brother. We'll end it on that. This has been ridiculous.
It's
been absolute. I cannot believe that this grown. But now, mind y'all, what he did. He said Jim Jones was all right for killing all them black people after taking them to Guyana. He said having sex with your mama is cool, right? Amongst a slew of other idiotic and moronic statements, man. I cannot believe a grown man just sat up there and did that for this time period. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. Man, Egyptology, that was your brain on Egyptology. You think having sex with your mama is cool. That's ridiculous, man. All right, I know it was rude, but I gotta go. All right, with that, we're going to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and say shalom. And come out of that Egyptologist madness mindset, because you see what that Negro was just talking. Shalom.